right, it is December 9th, 2025 at approximately 7:15. We are going to open up the capital budget meeting as we look forward to the next fiscal year. We are unfortunately down a member tonight as Corey Lincoln is unable to attend. However, we do have a quorum of 2, so we are going to proceed with the meeting. We may decide to hold off on taking a vote on any particular items on recommendations until maybe Corey has had the opportunity to appear at a subsequent meeting, and maybe then we'll take a vote then just to make sure we have all 3 members. However, we have plenty enough quorum, so if we did take a vote today, it would be sufficient. One thing I think on the agenda we're going to skip over is the meeting minutes being approved from last meeting without Corey here, who's oftentimes the scribe and very good at remembering how the meeting minutes were transcribed. I just think it makes more sense to do that approval when she is available. And so unless I hear objections from anybody, either on Zoom, where we do have a few attendees, or anybody in the room, most specifically Nora, I'm going to table that on the agenda until next meeting.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that we wanted to do this meeting is hear from a couple of the budget advocates about their proposals for capital projects for the next fiscal year. We currently have on the agenda was supposed to be police, fire, and recreation department. I believe that the fire chief is unable to attend tonight. So we will still have that on the agenda. We will still reference the proposal, but I think it makes sense to the extent that we have questions and would like to discuss it with the chief, that we sort of hold that open to another meeting so that he can attend and answer any questions. All right, so.
I have permission to record this as backup.
So I don't think that there's any problem with an additional recording of it on your phone.
Public.
I just wanted to say I'm recording this as a backup.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any issue with that. So unless somebody is aware of any issue with
Recorded, so.
Right. So
Right.
I'm just letting you know that that's what I'm doing with everybody's permission. Thank you.
Yeah, I just don't know if it would have to be preserved somehow by the town if there's multiple recordings by a member. That's the only thing I don't know.
To keep it preserved.
So
In case
just,
this one does not go through.
yeah. So just as a FYI, we will probably have to check to see if a member of the committee records something in addition to the other recording, whether or not both recordings then have to be preserved under retention requirements.
Okay.
So, okay. I did want to, for the purpose of the meeting and the minutes, identify a couple of what I would refer to as exhibits, items that the committee is going to consider and reference during the course of today's meeting. One of which is referred to as the 6-year capital plan update, fiscal year 2027 capital budget requests. It is dated December 3rd, 2025, and it is from the town administrator, Jeremy Marcette, and it is approximately 5 pages long. So that is what I will refer to during the course of the meeting as Exhibit A. So to the extent we ever reference this, that'll be Exhibit A to the meeting minutes. And then Exhibit B is really the attachments or enclosures that go along with Exhibit A. But for the purposes of simplicity, I'm going to refer to it as as Exhibit B. And within Exhibit B are the proposals of the police department and the recreational department and the fire department. And we will look at Exhibit B during the course of today's meeting. And so I just want to make sure it's set forth and everyone knows what we're talking about. All right. So I know that we have some people on the line as well in the room. My proposed order of march here is going to be police, rec department, and then to the extent we want to talk or at least reference the materials, the fire department, to keep sort of the agenda whole. And unless there's other business that anyone would like to address or bring up at the beginning of today's meeting, I propose we go in that order. All right. Now, I'm going to turn to what is Exhibit B, which includes the submission of the police department. And I'm just going to identify what the proposal is for a capital budget request, and then turn it over to Police Chief to make any comments or statements in support of it. So first of all, it is a police vehicle replacement, including the gear and other equipment that goes along with the vehicle. And here, the estimated total cost of the vehicle and equipment is $80,000. And this is to replace a 2021 Chevy Tahoe. And I think I've identified the project if you want to just speak to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've kind of had a systematic approach to replacing vehicles over the last several years. And we've been kind of alternating 2 vehicles, 1 vehicle. So this is a 1 vehicle year. And quite honestly, I can't wait to replace this this particular vehicle. It's been troublesome. We actually had about $1,300 in repairs last week on it. But it's so we'll be replacing it with a similar vehicle, a 2026 Chevy Tahoe PPV, which is a police pursuit vehicle. Man, the reason we're choosing that is, yes, it came in with an initial estimate of $80,000. If we would have purchased the new vehicle with all new equipment, it would actually be a little bit higher than that, just under $82,000. My hope and my plan, as I'm continuing to work with our upfitter, is that this is actually going to be reduced to about the $75,000 range. We're still just getting some information on confirming all of the equipment that can be transferred. There's been some changes in the designs of the vehicles that doesn't allow everything to be transferred, but a lot of the equipment that we already have, we're not going to need to repurchase. So kind of what I'm presenting to you is worst case scenario if we had to replace everything, which we're not going to have to do. So it'll be a 2026 vehicle. It'll be very similar to, it's going to, replacing a marked vehicle for a marked vehicle that's used for everyday patrol. We should be at or over about 100,000 miles at time of replacement. And it's a pretty straightforward project this year. We're not nothing electric. This is a regular gas vehicle, and we will just kind of continue to move forward. I will say that we did add an EV last year into patrol. It's been very successful so far. Hopefully that will continue to be the case, and then we'll take a look at what the fleet makeup will be down the road. But this year it'll be a standard gasoline vehicle.
So I a couple of questions. You talk about 1 year, 2 year alternating. Have you been able to put into the current fleet the 2 vehicles that were appropriated for last year?
Yes, yeah, both vehicles.
So you said an EV vehicle.
So we have an EV, a Chevy Blazer EV that's on the front line for patrol, and then we actually got a Chevy Blazer gas vehicle, which isn't a traditional, it's not a police pursuit vehicle or a special service vehicle. It's really a regular off-the-shelf vehicle. I guess, lack of a better term, it's Officer West's Chariot. So it's driven by Sergeant Nolte primarily, and as a patrol sergeant, but also to transport Officer West. So,
and any observations or things you can relay about those acquisitions, process / how they've been playing out?
Everything's been positive. I'll tell you initially to start with the electric vehicle, obviously there's some skepticism. There's been skepticism from people in town and from some of the officers. So I put our most seasoned senior officer in it, figuring if there's going to be problems or complaints or things. That's really where it's going to come from. If I put one of our newer officers that's excited about some of the technological changes, get different feedback. And I was very impressed. So I took him out. Obviously, I drive an EV as well, and I showed him some of the features. I explained how they work, and I told him I don't expect you to use all this stuff. And I kind of let him go to feel his way through. And after the first week, he came into my office and he's like, and one of the particular features is it's called one pedal drive, and he goes, that one pedal drive is awesome. How do I get it for my truck? So he really has embraced the technology. He's got a system down where he gets almost 3 full shifts out of a charge, but he charges a little more often just to be careful using the charger here out front. And then actually our insurance company, Maya, offers driver training as part of there where we actually get credits for. So he and I went down to the Cape for a full day of driver training in it, and the vehicle handles unbelievably well. It was a great experience to do that, kind of put it through the test to see how it would work out. So it's been really good.
So using our own Sherborn vehicle on that course down there?
Yep.
And it handled better or the same or?
At least the same and better in some circumstances.
Is the pickup, I assume, better?
It's unbelievable. So, which could be a bad thing at times, but.
It's 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive?
Yeah, all-wheel drive. Yep, and it has different modes for snow and things like that to manage the traction control.
Sounds like Nora has some questions.
Is there any way to kind of track gas versus electric and the cost of that savings, if any?
I know, the gas is tracked, pretty strictly because we go through the town pump, so we know, and it's each gas fob is assigned to each vehicle, so we know the gallons and what's being used and the mileage. We don't enter any mileage in when we do any things. We can start to do some tracking. It's hard because we use the charger for free. Obviously the town's still paying for the electricity, but we don't see it. I can get some kilowatt reports from that system. But I would have to start to track some mileage, so I can work on that to try and get some comparisons.
When you say that you get it for free, is it each vehicle would have its own code, or
No,
is
so
it?
we have a town account,
Okay.
and there's an RFID card that's in the car that activates the EV charger.
So somebody at town would know how much police is getting charged.
So we have, actually it all goes through my
for the whole
email.
town, or?
So it doesn't really show how much charge, but I can look and show what all the usage is. It doesn't break it out by vehicle because it does the vehicle I drive, it does the vehicle that Officer Lockwood Air is driving, but it will show you how much electricity we are using overall.
Okay, versus gas.
Yep. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you think you could break it down at some point through, not past usage, but going forward, could it be like either the RFID card is per vehicle, or there's a code that you could just say?
It doesn't allow us that functionality, and I will tell you from when we had a problem, the company that manages the back end is not very easy to deal with. So I will see what we can do, but I won't make any promises.
No, I
Two separate
understand.
vehicles.
Right, but it's one like we get an account.
Yeah.
I can find out, and I'll have a discussion with Jeremy about it. But they were very, very difficult to deal with because the initial RFID cards we got weren't working, and just to try and actually get through and connect and get it set up has been not been easy.
What's the provider's name? Just like
It's Telus Power.
Telus Power.
Yeah. It probably would be a recommendation to go with that type of a charger again if it were up to me.
Got it. And is it the same for?
They're two different companies, the two different
Okay.
chargers.
And does the town have an account at the other charger? Or?
Not. I think it's probably possible to do that through ChargePoint, but that charge is exponentially faster So for the most part, we wouldn't use that charger, the slower charger.
Is this one like a supercharger?
It's a high speed. It's not quite the level to a Tesla supercharger,
Right.
But it's over, I think, 150 kilowatts.
And this is a terrible question, but is this one just publicly available then? Or is it
So
reserved for
so
town
you
usage?
can, if you have your own account with the company,
Right.
you can come in and charge, or it takes credit cards.
Yeah, okay.
How long do you have to charge it for?
It varies, but usually it's like 20 minutes at a time. So if it's, if you're here, gonna have lunch or do something like that, you can plug it in, walk over, do that, and come back, and it's charged.
Capital Budget Committee meeting, you could charge it, and by the time it's over,
I may
20
be doing
minutes.
that right now.
Okay, so it sounds like past acquisitions are all working out pretty well. When I say past, at least within the last year or two.
Yeah, I would say that since I've come, here, the purchase we've made, everything's worked out well.
Okay.
And it's been a combination of the electric vehicles, Chevy Tahoe, we've a hybrid, kind of a variety. So.
And so this option to go with a gas vehicle, are you suggesting it's the just like price or operational cost? Like why go with just the internal combustion engine?
It's a combination. One, I want to get more time on the full EV and patrol to see how it works out. And secondly, that we're able to reuse some of the equipment in this into it because it's going into a light vehicle.
Okay. And then last question I have, I think, is one of the selling points of an EV vehicle is operational costs. And I know that, was it 3 years ago, there was another EV, like a smaller car. Yeah. Have you seen that it just doesn't require the maintenance that?
So in that time, we've done, I think it's $217 in maintenance in that vehicle.
For 3 years?
For 3 years, or 2.5, almost 3 years.
Okay, that's, I would say, dramatically lower, right?
Yeah, so, well, as I said, the vehicle that this one will replace, we spent almost $1,300 on last week.
Okay. And so are you thinking that another year of a vehicle on sort of the front line might be enough to evaluate?
Yeah, I would not be surprised if when I'm before you again in a year that another EV will be an option.
Okay. And somebody's talking on the Zoom. I don't know if they're trying to communicate with us or side conversation. Okay. That would be great to hear. And it sounds like there isn't an availability issue at this charging station.
Not right now. We haven't seen an issue. We haven't run into an issue.
Okay.
It's more, when the two of us are trying to charge, but that hasn't been a problem at all.
Right. And if it's 20 minutes, then hopefully it's.
Yeah. And we have an adapter. So there's two different types of charging heads. So through Ford, they sent an adapter that came with the Mach-E to be able to use Tesla-style chargers so that we can use both if we need to.
So you don't need to have a charger at the station?
Not right now. I think that it's a discussion we would have to have down the road if the fleet continued to expand.
Right.
Have some type of charging there. Maybe not at that level, but ones that when the vehicles are down and they're going to be down for a full shift, they could plug in and charge slowly.
For long range, like next year or the year after, so is it basically every year you're coming after a vehicle, or when do you think?
So yeah, it's kind of a rotation. It's kind of two then one to kind of keep the rotation going. I would expect that two we had, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, we had one of our vehicles get totaled that got hit before the roundabout got put in. Somebody ran the stop sign, and our insurance is replacement. So it was an older vehicle that we ended up getting replacement cost for. So that should put us in a coming year that we should get two, that we would probably only get one.
That's another question.
Sure.
So when you had that outstanding grant writer
Yes.
staff, how is that coming along? Do you have any grants that you're able to?
Nothing. We didn't go after too much this year. She is also heavily involved in our accreditation process, and we've kind of taken a step back on some of the grants this year. A lot of them were grants that we'd already gotten, so we wouldn't have qualified. They were just another years for it. We're closing out two of them right now. So we have one that we're still doing some spending on, and one that we're going through a review. and I will say an incredibly thorough review, as Pam can probably attest to, that we've gone through with the federal government. And so we will be looking at that as more things come available down the road.
But nothing with vehicles or anything?
So no, nothing we did with the current purchase EV. There was a $75 state grant we took advantage of, but we'll see what continues to be available for that down the road.
All right. Thank you.
Always on the radar. And as I get information from the upfitter on the cost and what that reduction will be from that 80,000, I'll pass it along right away.
Are you suggesting we shouldn't take action on
I would
this?
I would give me a couple of weeks, maybe
Okay.
a couple of your meetings, just with an understanding that it will be lower than the 80,000, and I'll work on, confirming that number.
Okay. And then looking long-term, I'm looking back at Exhibit B, which has the capital improvement plan over the next 6 years. It looks like the vehicles are the only things that are appearing, and it's like, again, that 2-1, 2-1 sort of oscillating plan. Is there any other capital projects or expenditures that you're contemplating at this point, besides maybe this aerial drone?
So the drone would be a combined project with the fire department. That's a tentative because of the things that are going on at the federal level. So right now, the drones that we utilize are DJI. They're very popular on the commercial market, and they're like 85 or 90% of the public safety market. But there's a report that is due out by the end of December from the federal government about Chinese produced drones. Depending on what that report says, they will ban the future use of, so future purchases of new models, not existing models. And we know that report's not going to be positive because there's nobody working on the report. So we already know, they basically said, we're not going to do the report, we're just going to ban them. What happened with that is in the end, they realized there was a loophole, because now there's all these existing Chinese drones that could continue to be used. The FCC has created a new regulation that could allow them to then ban all of them, including ones that are currently in service. Now, there never should be a problem for us. I don't see, if we have someone who is missing in the woods with Alzheimer's, why China would care about what our drone
Just
is
like
taking a picture of. Right. So we're still working through that. We don't know what that's going to look like. So that's why we put that on as a placeholder, that if we had to purchase an American-produced drone to continue having the drones available to us. But beyond that, we will be looking at, and probably down the road 5-6 years, looking at our ECWs, which are tasers, electronic control weapons, and body cameras to be replaced again. And those were things that were just replaced completely on grants. So the hope is that some of those things will be able to be offset by grants in the future, but they will be added to the capital plan as we continue to move forward.
Okay. All right. Anything else? And I guess we will sort of table the vote. Yeah.
So I'll get you something as soon as I can, but I was in touch with them just over the last couple of days, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. I think it makes sense to pivot over to the rec. My goal is to, and did it in a roundabout fashion with the chief here, is to sort of look back and get status updates on prior projects and like how things have worked out and lessons learned, and then pivot towards looking at what's new proposal. I apologize if this is catching you a little unprepared, but I assume hopefully you're kind of living some of the past stuff, current stuff, and so you might be able to speak to it. So I guess when we go down rec department list in order of appropriation, the first is the ball field, right? And that's the 90-foot base path ball field over at the field here. So can you speak to what the status of that is and what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, in part, tonight's capital budget ask from recreation as it relates to the funds that we're seeking for work on Jameson 2, it's interrelated to that project, and I'll call it out when we get there. One of the things that both recreation as well as the baseball softball league were looking to assess was the use of the facility post installation of the lights at Jameson 1. And the those lights was a winter/spring project that started in February of this year, and that project ended right before opening weekend competition. About 2 months later, we did it in a record time. Had some cooperating weather, but at the end of it, it allowed us to use it for a full season, which we weren't sure we would be able to do. And what they're hoping to learn from that, from using lights, is how much was that going to take the pressure off of the other baseball diamond that was adjacent to the Little League field, because it was allowing the league and recreation, for that matter, by extension, to double stack both practices and games onto the field that have lights. And the reason why that has, downstream implications for the Jameson 4 project is the layout, as you'll see in a little bit, at Jameson is not ideal in that you have diamonds that overlap with each other. They can't be utilized concurrently. And the two diamonds that are impacted the most by that, one of them is Jameson 4. And so in the absence, if we had gone into 2025 without any lights, it would be really simple in terms of what to do, because we would have needed all 4 diamonds the way we were historically using them. And we just would have gone straight into renovating Jameson 4 this past fall, because it just would have made sense to utilize the space that was already in. However, in that, taking a second look at it and studying how the fields were utilized in 2025 with the lights, it's pretty clear that you can do 2 things. One is you could position Jameson 4 in the softball field in better alignment so that their outfields no longer overlap, creating a situation where basically you can't have a softball game going on at the same time as a baseball game. And they effectively, cancel each other out whenever one's being used and not the other. And so the work that's been done this fall was to spend time getting this site surveyed. The cost of that survey was used the funds that were allocated as part of the project for the Jameson 4 renovation. Potentially, you may get a 2-for-1 out of that if you decide to. Now that we have the whole thing surveyed, we'll be able to use that same survey for the rest of the facility. So when we go to do the work on Jameson 2 or any other diamond, that's already something that's been paid for, to do again. So instead of just surveying the area around Jameson 4, we did all the baseball diamonds. We did it all at once. It was just more efficient to do that way. And so that was what the money was spent on so far. So when you look at the remaining budget, it's net of that expense. So with that, they came up with a design to have an ideal layout for the facility, which would allow uninterrupted use of both the softball diamond and the baseball diamond, so that we could really be on the schedule just as easily as the Little League field. And so when you look at that's where I'm going to it's a little bit joined at the hip in terms of what we're asking the town to consider in this capital budget cycle for the softball field, the proposed softball field at Jameson 2.
So if I understand correctly, and now I'm looking at a schematic map here, which is part of the proposal, all included in Exhibit B. Yep. It shows a movement of Jamison 4 to basically put the home plate for the 90-foot baseball field at where the softball home plate essentially was. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the softball diamond then moves from where it was to essentially where Jameson 2 used to be. And so to make that happen, according to the schematic, it looks like there's a loss of a Little League sized baseball diamond, correct?
So yes and no. So the way the Jameson 2 field, where the new softball field would be, if you did this, that would actually be a hybrid field. So you'd actually have the ability to use it both for softball as well as it'd be a backup field for baseball. So you'd leave, the definition of the infield is called a skinned infield, which means there's no grass. But you'd be able to bring in a portable mound for the purposes of using it for baseball. So if you want to do a scrimmage, training, or whatever, you just wheel a portable mound in, use it for that purpose, and then wheel it out. Then it's back to softball.
You talk about a skinned infield, which this is my preferences now leaking through a little bit. Why not just have a grass infield?
For softball,
Yeah.
a lot of softball diamonds are traditionally skinned, at least on a lot of different levels. You know, that's the way they're designed.
No, I understand that is an option, but like I'm just displaying my strong preference for grass. So I'm kind of questioning like, why go skin when I think it's a better game on grass? Like, is that something that you've gotten the input from the softball community that says, no, we're pounding the table, we want, dirt as opposed to grass? Or
so when Jameson 3, going back in time, this is before all of this got underway. My understanding was that when Jameson 3 was initially redeployed as a softball field, for lack of a better expression, that was the desired treatment for the diamond. Now, from a maintenance standpoint, grass infields are a lot more challenging to maintain. And they're also, when they get out of dimension or out of, when you start developing lips and things like that, they become dangerous. And in some ways, like a skinned softball diamond is actually a very safe softball, a very safe way to play. Because you have less imperfections you have to worry about. So from a maintenance standpoint, it's a more consistent playing surface. And then, the other aspect of it is, the reality is we don't have water, at Jameson. And so, when we renovated the baseball diamond with the White Sox today, we did that project 2 years ago. We were relying on, at the outset, to help the sod take during periods where it's really dry. We're relying on DPW and a water truck to come in and help water it. So it's possible, to have 3 diamonds that are all sodded, but it's easier to maintain one. I think it was the actual preference at the time we did Jameson 3 originally.
Yeah, I just didn't know if the current softball community, which is vibrant about stuff, is.
I haven't heard anything otherwise.
I'm happy to call the head of the softball and see what her feelings are.
Sure.
Or at least talk to the board of the DSYBS, if I said that correctly.
Just so you know, this design and layout was done in conjunction with the board. It wasn't done wasn't just recreation.
No, I assume that you guys have been talking with the users of it, but I just didn't know about the skin part of the softball field. So just to make sure I understand too, so you have done the survey of everything. Do you have a sense on what the marginal increase in cost was to do sort of the everything surveyed as opposed to just sort of Jameson 4? I assume that there's some marginal cost, but not.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, the reality was that when they did we gained some efficiency because the firm that we utilized to do the survey for the Jameson Court project is the same firm that we enlisted to do the survey for the. So they had stuff already, which gave us a running start and saved some money, right out of the gate there. So, and then if you look at the area in and around the existing Jameson Fort area, you're almost doing 2/3 of the facility anyway. So it was really just making sure that wherever the Jameson Court project left off, that we were just getting, the rest of the area that enclosed, Jameson too.
I'm sorry, what was the cost of the survey in general, just so I can note it? If you have that.
Is that what was taken out of the 100,000? So about 4,000?
It's 3,000 and change, that's correct.
Okay.
All right, so I'd like to round up 4,000.
So-
Make life easier.
Not a big percentage of the project cost.
No.
You have something to say, Nora?
So can you help me understand? So the $100,000 was taken out in August of 2024.
Correct.
Only 4,000 has just recently been taken out of that.
So that was spent this fall, that's correct.
Okay. So is this going really for that 100,000
No.
to shift it? Or is this now, you're asking for another 100,000 in addition to this 100,000?
This softball field, this request is for the softball field. The conventional, and it's going to prove out when we get our estimate, which we've signed up for both fields. We can both get the estimate for both at the same time. The request is for the development of the combination softball, baseball field at Jameson 2.
Can I ask a couple questions? Around here?
Okay, can I just
Somebody
ask
have a
one
question
real
on
quick?
this one? Sorry.
Was the money actually borrowed or was it?
It was
Okay,
borrowed.
so that was one that
It
did
came up
borrow.
last year inadvertently at a meeting. When I was like, hey, how's the Jameson? Like, we don't recommend the tennis courts this year. We did last year, but not this year.
Right.
And they're like, no, we haven't done it because of the lights or whatever. Something changed.
Yep. They want
So we've spent so far, just to, not beating anybody up, we spent $6,700 so far on interest on that 100,000. And we've just had to pay 9,000 back on the principal. So let's just call it 6,700 and change. It's been spent on that. So it's frustrating because I guess Pam's here because the money, like I think before something's done, but where money's needed to take out, it should, it's asked. So it was said that something was going to be done, and then we find out nothing was done, but we paid $6,700 because it could have been earmarked but not borrowed. So we borrowed that.
Yeah, and I understand.
And I'm not trying, but the reason why I keep bringing this up is because I think it's important to find out where some gaps are. And this isn't beating you up, all right? Because there's a rec commission that was involved and everything else. So it's for me, just trying to get up. So we had 100 that was kind of done when 2 years ago when the tennis court got voted down at town meeting.
Correct.
Even though we approved the tennis court, meaning capital budget and advisory, but then it got voted down. Then the 100,000 was kind of that was re-voted at town meeting.
They brought it back up, I thought.
But they brought it back up and said, well, if we don't have this, can we have this? But yet, I just feel like that was kind of just a throwing it in there. And then you ended up, not you, but Rep ended up getting it. But so now it's turning into a $200,000 project for Jameson. Let's just call it all of Jameson, correct?
Well, I mean, in fairness, well, first of all, I want to acknowledge what you're saying, the frustration, I get that piece of it, you know, on part of recreation, and I understand where you come from there. The renovation for Jameson 2 is on the long-term capital budget prior to this year. So it's not something that's coming up because of the Jameson 4 project. It was already targeted for this fiscal year anyway to have that work done or to go for it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to, point that out, that it's not, we're asking for another 100,000 for Jameson 4 per se. This is.
I'm looking at because 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going from 4 fields to 3 fields essentially? Or?
This would, and this would be a potential benefit of doing this.
Right.
Which we don't have to, by the way. Like this is for the town's consideration. And we're trying to bring something to light that we think makes sense, both fiscally and logically and operationally. But if, the town ultimately doesn't support it, of course, you can't have it. So we feel like we have, a responsibility as they've dug into this and say, okay, well, if there's a better way to do this, do you want to try and take advantage of it or not? And so we're in the midst of that process of trying to determine does it make sense or not. And so in some ways, as we sit here tonight, I wish I had, we're almost there in terms of, I think, the other key pieces of information that we need to make this more of a cohesive proposition or decision for everyone, which is getting those estimates back and saying, okay, does it actually make sense or not? Like, I don't want to presume it does, but I also want to get this on your radar, and thank you for having me, so that you know what we're thinking and why we're trying to go in this direction, because we do see a lot of benefit to it.
So, I get that. And again, it's up to the citizens, the taxpayers to look at this. We're kind of like a checks and balances or, transparency and just trying to get it out so there's no, as limit mistakes being made along the way.
Yeah.
The thing is that the same thing happened with the tennis. Can I just is this going to interfere with the tennis courts? And where are we with the tennis courts? And the tennis courts was $565 that was appropriated.
Yeah, so what I suggest we do is sort of go project by project.
Is that project going, because it's close to the tennis courts and pickleball, correct? Is that going to interfere, or is that something that has to be all blended in together?
No.
And when do you project all these projects to take place?
So the contract that for the Jameson course should be executed any day now. We're just waiting from the second lowest bidder to get the bonds back to the town of Sherborn so Jeremy can sign the contract. The time frame for that work that's in that agreement is substantial completion by June 6. So there's a couple things there. One is that even if both projects
Deb Seafrin, can you mute yourself, please? Sorry, I don't have control, so I can't.
Sure, sorry about that.
But let's take it from even if both projects were going on concurrently, just to answer the question you asked a bit earlier, no, they wouldn't impact each other because they don't share any of the same space, and the space that needs to be utilized to complete the work is not overlapping. And in fact, there's a fully completed baseball diamond between the two physical sites that need to be worked on. So there's no.
Okay.
But in any case, the courts are supposed to be substantially complete by June 1st per the agreement that's being executed.
Okay.
So getting back to the base Jameson 4 appropriated project, is it correct that because you're sort of looking at this holistically, that's why ground wasn't sort of broken on the Jameson 4 this past fall?
I think, one, yes, but two, again, the absence of the lights that bring ground James support, there's nowhere else to put it. Like, that's where it belongs. Like, that's where the renovation would have taken place. There would have been, it's only because of the lights where you have the ability to double up on the use of a Little League baseball diamond for games and practices Monday through Friday. That gives you the breathing room where you could potentially go from a 4-diamond to a 3-diamond facility where you have no longer have overlapping fields. Otherwise, the Recreation Commission would needed to retain the flexibility of the existing layout.
So having participated in sort of the softball and baseball in town, I know that Jameson 2 field has gotten substantial usage in the past, and then this past spring, there weren't as many, there were games still being played on Jameson 2, although I think a lot less than there had been in the past. And definitely there were practices being run, and I think games concurrently with games on Jameson 1. Is the view that the program and the demand for field space is not going to increase over time? I know if you were to ask the DSBYS or whatever, the Dover Sherborn baseball and softball, they obviously are eager to grow their programs to get more and more kids participating, which would require more and more field space, both on the softball and the baseball side of things. Maybe their desires to grow the program isn't realistic and they'll never need sort of more field space. I guess I'm a little concerned if you knock out 1 diamond, that between Dover and Sherborn, then you essentially have 2 baseball diamonds, like Little League baseball sized diamonds, and 1 softball field.
So I believe Dover has.
2 softball fields.
Yeah. So the real challenge for Dover Sherborn baseball softball is not with, and this is both from a recreation scheduling standpoint, but also from what I hear from them, is not so much finding space for the Little League size fields. The real issue is trying to work out what's going on. The program that's run the most over the past 3 years is
Softball.
And they're hemmed in Sherborn at least.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's occurring simultaneously with that is that because of the growth of the program, the demand on the larger diamond has also increased, right? And the 2 things that you have the greater demand for happen to just overlap in the outfield, which makes it very challenging. Adding to that challenge is that between the 2 towns, that is the only 90-foot diamond. And so, when you look at
Non-high school field diamonds, right?
Well, they used to be able to use one of the diamonds at the high school, but they no longer are able to book that field. So that's what they used to be able to do, but they haven't been able to. So in any case, when you look at like where their greatest constraints are, it's not on the diamond side, it's on the softball.
And will this softball field be large enough for the larger, like 6th through 8th grade program?
My understanding is that it'll be. Well, I don't want to speak out of turn. Let me confirm that.
Because they've been playing the 6 through 8 basically on Carroll only in Dover, and have been playing the smaller age bracket over here at Jameson.
Let me confirm that. I don't want to speak out of turn.
I mean, I don't know if I look at what is the dimensions down the line here.
180. And I think we should got my left.
181. Is that what it is?
181 and 182-ish.
All right. And that looks like there's even like some gap between there and the tree line.
Yeah.
So in theory, and I'm not sure, was there contemplation of a fence there or just a rope barrier or
I think there is.
like a chain link?
Yes, yes, at some point. I mean, it's not, I don't think that's what we're asking for here, but I think we're just looking at point of necessities, which would be the diamond itself.
Backstop,
Backstop, dugout.
fencing along the dugout or,
Yeah, protect the players in the back.
okay. So this wouldn't contemplate a fence, so you could basically have, you know, until you hit the trees. Okay. All right, so that sounds like it'd be big enough for the older girls as well.
Why can't you utilize the high school
I don't know. I don't know why that.
For softball or baseball or,
or both, whatever?
Yeah, my understanding is that this is coming from Dover Street Baseball Softballs, that we used to be able to utilize it, and now we can't. And it's been that way for years.
And then could you rent this out like what you do with the soccer fields?
Yes. And I will say that what's different between soccer, the soccer fields and the diamonds is that in part it's because of the constraint of the layout. It's one of the potential benefits of changing the layout is that the most requested diamond size for rental is the 90-foot diamond.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we're saying no because we have a softball game. And so it's not only just providing more breathing room and flexibility for Dover Street baseball, softball, but it also be an opportunity for Sherborn recreation to do more rentals on the 90-foot diamond.
How much would those go for rental?
It's for the 90-foot diamond, it's for an outside club, it's $75 an hour.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just asking what it costs, so I don't.
I mean,
Nora's gonna host a tournament.
we got double recording going on. Which would be right. So but what I will tell you is this: the way traditionally clubs like to rent the large diamond is they like to do it in blocks. So
Double headers.
It's like a half day at a time. They want to get like 2 or 3 games in. They're not interested in doing one-offs. And right now, it's a lot of the availability is it's like a bingo card. It's a lot of one-offs because the outfield's overlap.
Okay, so it sounds like there's already an appropriation that is, accruing interest as we speak, and the ask for this new project, i.e. slotting in the softball field and sort of, it's not going to create additional cost to move the baseball diamond, is that right?
Well, that's part of what we want to determine with the estimate. I think there's efficiency to be able to renovate in place than moving it. Now, and when I talked to the people who actually do the work, when we were doing like back in the envelope estimates, which weren't sufficient for submitting to capital budget, but just to understand, okay, what we're looking at. There's an incremental cost, but there wasn't like an order of magnitude cost.
Are you still able to get it within
That's what
the
we're
100,000?
That's what we're trying to do.
You mean to do both or just to do one?
That's just for one, for Jameson 4.
So that's the aim, but is that realistic?
Well, we're going to find out. Like,
Oh, so you haven't gotten that response back?
So, we just signed a proposal last week to have that estimate developed based off of this plan. And we have to have that back to you.
All right, so
But
what would be do you have a cost then for the softball?
well, that's both those estimates are being co-developed at the same time.
No, but what would be the cost of just redoing the softball field, either as is or?
Oh, let me back up a little bit. So if you were just to renovate the softball field in a future year, let's say you left the facility as is,
Okay,
you renovate in place, you don't need your backstops, you don't remain the same. That's probably going to be in the neighborhood between $50,000 to $75,000. It'll be less expensive for that.
okay. So renovating softball in place, which, that field kind of needs it, but,
It's maxed out after Jameson 2. It's
would be 50 to 75,000 ballpark,
ballpark.
gross figure.
Yeah.
Renovating Jameson 2 in place,
Yeah.
similar?
Similar, but a little bit more expensive because you're going to have some sod than infield. Yes,
more towards the 75 than the,
correct.
oh, you're saying that if you were to do Jameson 3, you'd make it a skin infield?
So, no, so hear me out. I like the question you're asking, just to make sure I understand which question you're asking.
So if you're leaving
If you
the
leave all-
softball field in place, Jameson 3,
Correct.
and you were just renovating it, making it, flat, nice and pretty, et cetera, playable,
Yeah.
safe,
Yes,
maybe not a skin infield, you're saying it would cost 50 to 75,000.
yeah.
Now Jameson 2, which is the baseball Little League, if you were to renovate that in place, like part of the capital plan and going field by field
Right, if you just left it
as is,
same location.
what would that be
It'd be on the higher end of that 50 to 75 because you have the additional sod and
all right,
the grass around the mounds.
assuming that you don't have that in the softball field, Dave. I mean,
Yeah, so it's going to lower.
okay. And so what you're contemplating here is essentially doing all 3 surfaces, like all 3 fields, but combining it into 2 fields and renovating everything and doing it for what?
So that's what we're trying to determine.
But like, what do you think? I mean, so you already had the 100,000 for one of the fields.
So the range that we're getting, again, I want the person whose professional expertise is doing estimates versus me throwing out swags. Because
Yeah,
so I mean, I can give you the swag, but I don't know.
What's the back of the envelope? And the guy was like, yeah,
I thought
well.
you just said it was 200, that you're kind of asking for a ballpark.
Well, it depends on, it gets into discussions on, okay, well, is it a simple bench, like metal bench, you're like, with the chain link in front of it, and,
Making it nice versus,
you get into those kind of discussions. So it's, the range we're given is like really wide. It's a couple $100,000 all the way up to, if you brought in prefab dugouts and dropped them in, which exists, you're up around $500,000 or more. Like these things have broad, wide range depending on how you develop the project. What we've asked for is to keep it as simple as possible. Give us an estimate for Jameson 4, give us an estimate for Jameson 2, give us an estimate if they were both on at the same time.
Okay, so can I, this is a procedural.
so just the number here, which is 100,000
Correct.
for the softball
Correct.
field, is really a joint project, and it would be in addition to the 100,000 that's already been appropriated.
It would be, so one of the questions that we're hoping the estimate flushes out is what would be the difference if you phased it versus not phased it? So say if you were to do it, logically, you'd only want to do this at the same time if you're going to a 3-field configuration. Do you agree with that?
I'm sorry, say again?
Yes, so that's what I'm trying to, can I just say, I just have to
Go ahead.
interrupt. I have to interrupt. To me, what town meeting voted on a year and a half ago, approximately, was 100,000 for Jameson 4. To stop the bleeding there, like that can't then just be used for then all of Jameson Fields. Like that has to be, and Pam, you're here, you can maybe help out for the semantics of all this. That can't, like, I want to stop the bleeding on that right now, in my opinion. I know it sounds like chump change, 6,700, but
Not
But-
to me, but
yeah, I know. Well, I don't think it is for me, but maybe for other people. But like, I want to stop the bleeding on that. And if the whole project is changing, then that money needs to be like reappropriated to something. Like we have to talk about that. Am I correct, Pam? Like to stop.
We have to have bond council about it.
so
I don't
my,
know.
my
Okay.
From field to field,
So-
it's still a field.
we did.
Okay, I've heard different things, so I'm just trying to understand.
So that did come up, that
Mhm.
idea of like, well, maybe that should be, before the voters, like if it's changing how the money's going to be used.
Right.
Yeah, we don't disagree with that. And my understanding is that when you look at if you were to do them both at the same time, that the expense for the Jameson 4 piece would be the larger of the two expenses. And that's why we're having them break it out. And so I agree with you, ultimately, both, for transparency and just philosophically, if it's changing, if you're changing it so much, then it's something else. And I won't argue that. But I don't feel like we have even the information to make that judgment or assessment. And at the end of the day, if the determination is made that either because the costs, are well beyond what's digestible for the town, or it just doesn't make sense, or whatever it is, then it's a Jameson 4 renovation exactly where it's located right now.
So if I understand correctly, there's no renovation of Jameson 4 this spring because the field will be in, there's just no availability to get it done prior to opening day. If the desire was keep it in place, we're just going to do it, is it even feasible to do that prior to opening day?
The question's been asked. Everyone that we have talked to about it has strongly urged us against doing that.
Because it's not feasible, or because it's impractical? Or it's a big risk. Because you don't know if the grass is going to take, the weather conditions, et cetera. It just could be. So in that case, breaking ground on just doing Jameson 4 wouldn't be feasible until after the spring seasons, baseball seasons are over, or is it after the summer baseball seasons are over?
So Jameson 4 is not really used for summer baseball. It has been booked sporadically in the fall for fall ball. Usually they wrap up on Jameson 4 between the third week of June and the first week of July.
Okay. So I know that's the worst time of the year to plant grass.
Correct.
So is it then not feasible to do it over the summer? You'd have to do it, you could do it at the end of the summer, but you can't actually get grass in until September?
You could start it in August, but you'd want to wait to put your sod in until September.
And that'll be over 2 years since the money was appropriated, if that's only Jameson 4 you're doing, which doesn't make sense if you're really thinking about if the bigger picture is to redo all three of them. To make it 3. Redo that whole complex.
Well,
So personally, I think the money should be reappropriated, in my opinion. I don't know.
When you say reappropriated, you mean paid back?
Well, I don't know if you can pay it back, but it can get towards another project. So it can be town vote, it can then reallocate it to another.
Yeah, no, I mean.
It's just sitting there and.
What's confusing for me is what project does recreation want to get done? It seems like there's a whole bunch of different ideas. So is it too early to come to capital budget? I don't think Rec knows what they want to do with the fields.
Dave likes to come to capital budget a lot, so I never think it's too early for Dave.
I think it's pretty clear what they want to do. That's already been determined. I think they want to see with how the estimate comes back for the work that needs to be done.
And where's that estimate? How's that getting paid?
So
how much is
I
that?
think the estimate it's not like it's being a consultant, it's just an estimate from a contractor,
no, it's a professional development estimate, just like we did for the project. Which we would need anyway as part of the work that's being done when the Jameson 4.
So is that coming out of revolving? Is that revolving money? Or is that coming out of?
For the Jameson 4 project?
Well,
For all of them.
so when you say the Jameson 4 project, the Jameson 4 project was renovating as is, right? So if you're thinking of the estimate for Jameson 2, that's a different project than Jameson 4, right?
Well, this is not my area of expertise, but my understanding was that the estimate for the work on Jameson 4 was going to be done concurrently with Jameson 2.
So if you're not paying out of the pot that is only for Jameson 4, then that makes sense, right? But if you're paying for money for Jameson 4 to do something, a different project, especially when you're breaking it out, you're saying, give me not just Jameson 4, not just
Yeah.
the whole thing, but if you're saying,
Yeah.
give me just the Jameson
understand
2.
exactly what you're doing.
If they were doing it like, oh, we're going to do that one for free because we're doing this other one, and we're also doing the whole thing as part of the Jameson 4 work, which I think is probably justifiable. But if you're like having to pay someone for a separate project, that is where it becomes
So
potentially
where was the
questionable.
$4,000 spent for, out of Jameson, $400,000 from 2024 town meeting?
That came out of the 100,000. What do you mean?
So that was just for Jameson 4, was that for
That
this
was
whole project?
that was for
Well, it's for
the survey and everything, which
The survey.
included
facility.
the
All
Jameson
of the
4.
Jameson facility, okay.
Right. And even if we were to keep
So-
even if we were keeping the Jameson 4,
You need to do that
we need
still.
to do that. And the other thing was is that we were also talking about, even if we weren't gonna go from 4 diamonds to 3 diamonds, that we were gonna change the position of Jameson 4. We need the survey either way.
Okay,
Yeah.
from one, all right, we're cut, all right. So then, you're hiring now a professional,
We've hired
you've hired
yeah,
a professional person,
to develop an estimate.
company, to develop an estimate for all of the Jameson
For
project.
For both Jameson 4, the Jameson 4 piece and the Jameson 2 piece, correct.
But, okay, so where did that money get paid out of?
It hasn't been paid yet.
Okay, what was the bill and how was it intended to be paid?
We haven't received a bill yet. So it'll be up to the Recreation Commission to decide ultimately where it gets paid from. So it's not my decision, but the amount of it is not in the grand scheme of things substantial. It's to develop the estimates less than $2,000. So
Okay.
it's not, if it had to come from, revolving or somewhere
Yeah.
else.
So I think the gut reaction that I have is that if you're doing it for Jameson 4, fine. If you're doing it for like the whole project, which includes the 90-foot base pass, fine, probably.
Yeah.
If you're doing it where it's like, no, this is a Jameson 2 project estimate, and then this is what the rest of it is estimate, paying for the Jameson 2 component might get more of a gray area.
Yeah, and so maybe to address that, either we don't pay it out of the,
Or there's like some
Or you
sort
call
of
it that,
proration allocation, and then you say, hey,
You
revolving
appropriate.
fund is going to pay the $200 for the component that is the breakout. Because, if you're doing the whole thing, the breakout probably is a little marginal cost.
right, I understand the concern, and,
I know it's semantics, but it's
no, I
important.
think it's,
No.
I think it's the right thing.
It's something that
And just to
we've
go on the
hammered the
record, we voted no
DPW.
on Jameson that time. We
You did.
voted no. And yes for the tennis courts. I'm
You did.
saying this again to reiterate for the public.
Yeah,
And then the tennis courts got voted down in 2024, even though advisory recommended it, but said no on this project. You have to pick one. I mean, you just can't do them all, in my opinion. And then this year, we said there's just a lot going on with the tennis. We said no on tennis,
right.
but let the voters decide. The voters decide it. We'll spend the money. So it's just, I feel like this Jameson stuff is still kind of nebulous, and we're paying money. We paid $6,700 already in interest. How do we deal with
Does
this?
that, while we're paying on the debt service, is the money held in an account that's earning interest, or is it
Yes.
just?
So it is offset
So how
by,
is it offset by the money earning interest?
So is the interest today higher than the rate of the debt?
no.
No,
Okay.
that would be arbitrage.
That would be,
I mean, rates have gone up since that's why I asked. That was different time frames, short term, earning interest versus long term debt, so.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying that, we can look at the difference of what it is. That's a good point. Excellent.
but may I ask,
It's a carrying cost.
may I ask Pam the question there? If something does get, like an appropriated debt gets bonded, so the money is then paid to the town's in possession of the money. Can the town pay that portion of the bond back, the debt back with the money it has, and then say you get within, all right, we're definitely doing this project in 30 days, right? It's already been appropriated. Can the town then just go out and reborrow the money?
Our bonds aren't callable. So like, we couldn't pay all we can't pay all the 100,000 back all at once.
But money is fungible, right? So is it possible to pay another portion of the town's debt, maybe one that even is at a higher interest rate with that $100,000 essentially that you have, so that when the time comes when you actually need the money, you then borrow it, so you're not incurring interest?
That's what we're supposed to do. Like whenever, so once the project gets passed at town meeting,
Right.
I go around and I ask everybody, like, the building got approved, but I didn't borrow the money yet.
Yeah, because it's not going to be incurred for a long time. No, I get that was the way it's supposed to be done. I'm just saying in this, sometimes it happens where money was bonded or borrowed.
Yeah.
It's now sitting with the town. The use for that money is not coming as quickly as anticipated. Is it possible for the town to, maybe it's the bond disclosures which prevent this, but essentially pay off some portion of debt that is due, and then at the time that you actually need the money, borrow it again? Or is it just, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm sure that it's not allowed because you've told someone you're borrowing it for this purpose,
Right.
and then you are double borrowing for the same purpose.
And most of our bonds are non-callable, and we get a better interest rate because of that.
Yeah.
So
You can't prepay.
Right.
it would be, so does it have, so town council can ask, or we can figure this out, like to reappropriate, is it the word
Town meeting.
at town meeting, it has to get reappropriated. And I would say this has to be
If
reappropriated.
necessary.
But it said Jameson 4, so somehow we've got to deal with that, from what I understand.
Well, Jameson 4, that space on the ground would be part of this project. Like to the extent that the diamond is moved from here to there, this is still Jameson 4, and this is
That
still-
wasn't part of the initial plan, though.
Well, the plan was to renovate Jameson 4.
My recollection is he actually, and I think it's you, so I don't want to say he, but I think it was you, did say that because of the lines on the field, there was a thought of shifting the diamond, because like the tree line is pretty close to the third base line here.
One of the
And so I think it was also some safety issues or something.
We talked about moving, maybe not as much as you see here, to try to get to a 3-diamond layout, but we talked about moving the home plate more towards the corner and pivot it more towards the corner of where Pine Hill is,
Right.
the school. And so there was always,
There was a contemplation of rearranging the diamond, not to this extent,
yeah,
but
not to this extent.
but if you think about you're renovating this patch of dirt, and so that's still part of this new project.
Yeah, I mean, I always,
But the goal would be to, A, have a defined project that you're proposing and making an additional supplemental request for, is what it sounds like. And then it would go in front of the town, and the town would be voting to essentially taking, and it could be multiple options, but taking the money that had been already appropriated, supplemented by a new appropriation, putting it together for a more holistic plan at Jameson.
All right, so that's what I really want to hone in on, is that's what's going to have to be dealt with.
Or the town says, no, you just renovate Jameson 4 right where it is.
But that doesn't make, from what you're saying, that doesn't make sense on the.
I
on
don't
the-
think it makes sense either,
But if the town says that that's what we want to do, then
Okay, well, yeah, that, of course.
but
Right.
like,
But then you're going to come back next year and say, or 2 years, or 3 years.
well,
this
Jameson
has to
2
be
still
done.
would then need to be,
done, Jameson 2
right.
is still going to need to be done.
Correct.
So it doesn't get you off of that work that needs to be done in the future, which is one of the reasons why there's some benefit to looking at this now.
But one of the things that may mitigate that is as we go through all of the recreation department projects, the ones that are sort of can be done this spring, are accomplished and there's a successful track record, right? And so it sounds like you're projecting a June 1 completion of the substantial completion of the tennis pickleball project.
Which is a definition that I'm learning about.
Substantially completed, so there's like a punch list items and. Yeah. But there's other projects too, right? So let's talk about Laurel. Let's talk about what's going on there with the irrigation project.
Okay. So good news on the irrigation side is that.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I did want to talk about, for the record, what's the price of the tennis pickleball project for the second lowest bidder?
give me a second, I'll get it up for you. I'll make sure you get an accurate number.
And so
Which, by the way, we paid $13,500 in interest payments so far on that.
the money hasn't been bonded, right?
Yes, it has been.
When did that get bonded?
September.
Oh, is that because you needed to sign the contracts that had to be bonded by then?
So
Because,
Can you let Pam answer that?
sorry,
because it was going to be done this year.
well, we were expecting to start this year.
No, is that the requirement, things get bonded as opposed to short-term borrowing? Because there's two different ways, right? There's the short-term borrowing and then
Not
things.
because of the total amount.
Got it.
So 565 was taken out. I checked today, it was 565.
Oh, it's 565 was taken out?
What do you think it was?
I don't know what I read. I thought it was 631, but maybe I had it wrong. Okay, go on.
And I'm trying to avoid having all this money in the future for either another project or another project. How do we stop that from happening?
What do you mean by stop what?
The Jameson taking the money out before we needed it, tennis courts taking the money out before we needed
Well,
it.
it wasn't though. She said it had to be.
But we needed, when did we need to take that out though? At that time, we really did need to take them out in September?
Correct.
Well, that's when we were, yes.
That's when I went out to bid.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the tennis, I'm actually thinking that the tennis pickleball came in under budget and is going to be accomplished at like a good clip.
That'll be great.
So what was the bid there?
So the bid we had to move on, the initial bid that we had to move on from was 398, 185. The second lowest bid, which is the one we're trying to execute the contract on, is 458.
All right, so what was approved at town meeting, if I'm not mistaken, was $623,000.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. It was 600.
Right,
That might just be the amount that's assigned to the bond because there's premiums and all that kind of stuff.
right.
So the vote is what you should go by.
So the vote
So six-
was 623, I believe. And you're saying the cost on this bid is for what?
458, but we also have
Contingencies and stuff.
contingencies and we also have construction administration.
So what's the total amount at the moment?
So at the moment, it'd be 458 plus 12 and a half.
Percent?
No, 12 and a half thousand.
So, okay, anything else?
As of right now. Like, so like, I don't know what's going on, like sometimes with the core projects,
Oh, right. But what the contract is for,
the face value of the contract's gonna be 458.
458, when the approved appropriation was 623. So it's coming in almost, as of now, $180,000, $175,000 less,
Correct.
which is great, right? I think we can all say that that's great.
So,
And it could be done, substantially completed, knock on wood, by June of next year. Borrowed at the right time, expended at the right time, hopefully finished at the right
at
time,
the right time.
under budget compared to our appropriation.
Correct.
All right, so that's great.
Yep.
So the Laurel project,
It was supposed to be finished by this winter though.
I don't think that was ever going to be
We
feasible.
were expecting to start.
Fine,
No.
okay, to start.
We were expecting to break ground before this winter.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And it was dashed once the we had disqualified the lowest bidder, but,
Yeah, that's,
which was unfortunate, but because they came in really below. Yeah, but the hope was that if we had been able to get started soon enough, that we would be able to get out there sometime,
Before it got too cold.
I don't know, sometime have it reopened so that go into the spring with it available. Yeah, so maybe you have to wait for the final, because of temperatures, your final top layer and painting or whatever in April,
Right.
early May, but we were hoping to be able to use it for our spring programs, and that's gone to pass. It was like,
okay.
so the folks right now is our summer programs.
All right, so Laurel,
Laurel,
irrigation,
irrigation.
what's going on?
So, good news there is that we got substantial work done despite the weather last week. And so, important phase of the project, which is a lot of the subterranean work that needs to be done for the part that was put out to bid, which is all the electrical conduit and the piping and the quick connects that we need for the sprinkler system were all installed between Monday and Saturday last week. And so they wrapped up that piece of it. I was down there with them on Saturday morning because they were heading out of town. So we made some good progress, and the goal was to get some work done before the winter hit. And the ground got too cold or frozen.
So what's the next steps?
The next significant phase for that project is to get, it's kind of the wait for equipment, equipment is the storage tanks and the pump station that's going to connect the wells to the conduits. And so there's 10 to 12 week lead time on that equipment. It's the most expensive equipment, piece of the puzzle. I asked them if it
Are those above ground storage tanks?
They
Or
are.
Okay.
They are. That was done both for a lot of reasons, but not mainly cost. But also proximity to wetland. Like we're outside the 100-foot barrier, but we want to push the issue. So it'll be on top of crushed gravel, concrete for the pump station itself. But the timing of that, the question I had for the contractor firm that we engaged with was, can that, once the equipment arrives, if does that seem like we worked on during the winter, we have to wait for, thermals to be better in the spring? It sounds like they can actually work on it once it's available, unless there's, rolls on 2 feet of snow. So provided we don't get a heavy blanket of snow, they should be able to pick it right back up once the equipment's available.
So what's the goal in terms of completion of the irrigation?
Well, for the part that's bid out, that's to be done by the spring. And so, by the time it's town meeting, for the part that went out to bid, the part that's a bit out of our control is the resource piece, because the utility works on their own timeframes. And so they've done some of the work on site. They've installed the utility poles, they've prepped the lines to the utility poles. Verizon has put the new pole that they needed to put out along Route 27, but we're waiting on a transformer from Eversource that they need to work to get the power from the street into the transformer.
Is that something that could be done during the winter time, or?
My understanding is I'd let Sean answer that, but my understanding is they're working almost any weather. But I don't know how, there's a concrete component to that, a pad, so I'm not sure how that changes things.
Oh, so the transformer's not going to be up on a
No, I
pole?
think it's going to sit on a pad.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like most of the project could wrap this spring.
Yeah, we can test whether there's power at the site or not. We can test the part that's been bid out if it's completed with a generator. We prefer not to because it's added time and expense, but it's possible to do that.
I mean, it's hopefully that we get enough rain in the spring that that's not required
Yeah,
anyways.
If it's been anything like the last 4 or 5 springs, we really shouldn't be it until
June.
June or July.
And where was the remainder of the funds coming from for that project?
It's a combination of places. So there's ARPA funds that are the balance of the ARPA funds that are allocated towards the project is being consumed. There's a portion of the fiscal year 26 operating budget from recreation, and then the balance, which required approval from the select board and advisory, is coming out of our
Revolving fund. Okay, so those 3 buckets were able to bridge the gap there from ARPA, or I guess those 2 things, bridge the gap from ARPA to complete the project.
Correct.
Okay. And any other lessons learned or issues with that irrigation project?
Millions. I mean, yeah, a lot. It's a long-term, I inherited it, last February. It's a long-term project. They started, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. I think in a lot of ways it mushroomed in terms of both, I think everyone had the best intentions out of the gate. Unfortunately, we didn't develop a well that had a high enough flow rate to get us away from a storage solution. Once the storage solution was introduced, the cost escalated. So, I think, there's a lot of lessons there.
Anything that you want to share with the capital budget committee about how to do things going forward? We're always trying to come up with better ways of doing things so we aren't repeating mistakes or anything.
Clearly from advisory was, they felt like, while the select board may have had, full knowledge of and been read into the project, it was all late breaking for advisory. At least in terms of how the costs were going to be covered. I think everyone was aware of the project last spring, that it was out there, but in terms of what the cost would get completed. So I think recreation, as well as other departments, getting their information out there sooner.
It's always the unknown. I mean, costs are so unknown.
Right, when you're drilling for water and you don't strike gold.
And can I, under lessons learned, what about, because I was at the Dover Sherborn regional meeting, and I don't know how we were talking about, anyway, they said something, oh, you mean the Laurel Fields, the mountains there, they have to get so the hills on the field. So has that been addressed? I mean, is that going to get re-leveled out, or is it still, what's the scoop? Because the whole thing was voted down on town meeting for the AstroTurf or turf fields.
So
then 135 was increased, basically to deal with, and I don't think that was a long-term thing in operating budget. From what I understand, I'm still trying to get to the meat of it. So operating budget for recreation was increased from $15,000 a year because everything was funded through revolving. Dollars in, dollars out for revolving. So it was only $15,000, which probably was for overage or something that they need to cover, but it was only $15,000 in there. Then it got raised to $135,000 at town meeting in 2022. So now you have $150 in operating, but the general thought is that long, it was, a lot of people thought that was maybe short term, but it probably wasn't written correctly. I'm trying to research all that so we can kind of lessons learned for everybody from select board on down, that, and how warrant articles are written and everything else. So just trying to understand, did anything really get done other than the irrigation project? Now we're in 2025, almost 2026, to address the field out there at Laurel.
Yeah, I think so. We have spent, from what I've seen, in terms of what's been submitted on warrants, that gets approved by, the Recreation Commission and Finance or whatever, as we're submitting warrants all the time for our expenses and bills for the work that's being done. One of the things that mean, I noticed I wasn't immediately responsible for it at the time that it started, but like the amount of seeding and overseeding, fertilization, like things like that all ramped up around that time to help promote, which is when we have had water, like the fields sometimes look great. Honestly, the real issue is when we're throwing tens of thousands of dollars of material on the surface of Laurel and you don't have any water. And that's kind of, I think, what the genesis of was to go after the irrigation on the front end. And so, I was at the meeting, it wasn't part of recreation at the time, it was at the meeting where they shot down the turf field. And, they get everyone to like, well, just let them play on dirt to, hey, well, if we're not going to turf it, can we at least have a better playing surface?
Right.
Grass. I think that was the spirit in which it was increased. Now for, to when end, to what duration, that's.
No, and so this isn't, directed
I
at you,
don't
there's just a
know.
lot, so you want to learn lessons learned? I'm learning a lot of lessons on this. Because I'm a liaison now for recreation, so Paul Plott and I have been, as far as advisory, there's also lessons, again, there's no minutes for the last 3 years. There are 3 months that got submitted the other day, last week, for this year, for 2025. So there's no way for anybody to kind of look as far as transparency. So there's been a lack of transparency, in my opinion. Well, it's not my opinion, but there's a lack of transparency when you don't have any meeting minutes for 2022, 2023, 2024. So that's, to me, a lesson learned, that there should be minutes so that people can see what's going on, because the rec commission is a separate entity that can vote on things that nobody really, except for capital items, essentially. That, to me, is a lesson to think about. Since we're talking about it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about lessons learned, I'd just chime in.
Right. I mean, specifically about capital budget items, but still, yes, processes in general in town.
Yeah. But from a capital budget standpoint, like I said, I inherited the project in February, and I guess the thing I keep wrestling with is like, if you wanted to get the project over the finish line from the capital budget standpoint, there's a creative sort of mix of different sources of money that are being used to complete this project. Was a different potential path. Was there a different path that could have been taken where you would have brought back to the voters, or maybe using a reserve fund, or I don't know what, but I guess my point is that, we're kind of looking for solutions, to complete a project that already had a lot of time and money sunk into it.
Thank you. You did mention the revolving fund was used. Do you know if sort of the account there on the invoices and the payments is the town a creditor? No. Yeah. Is it a creditor to some organizations if they've actually paid up in full at this point? Or?
So everything that was, if you want to go back to, for example, last spring.
No, I was this fall. Yeah.
So one of the things that we did for the first time this fall, and a lot of this work has been in conjunction with finance and the collector's office, to give credit where credit's due, is we've tried to improve how we're doing things. And one of the things we did this fall for the first time is we put a due date. Believe it or not, having due dates on your invoices makes complete total sense. It's something we just never had before, so that was on there. The other thing we took, which was a recommendation from the finance and or the collector's office, was to have a late fee, so that there's actually an impetus or a consequence if you were to pay late. So on the positive side, for the fall invoices that had a due date of November 30th, the majority of those have been paid. We have one organization left that still needs to pay a substantial amount, more than,
Is that a DS organization?
No, actually, the DS organization paid on time.
Okay.
So Dover, Sherborn, Soccer, they paid on time.
Who's the culprit?
Well, I don't, they've made a partial payment before the November 30th deadline, and they're paying the balance this week, at the end of this week. So I don't want to, they're a client of ours. I don't want to
Okay. All right.
shame them unnecessarily. But my point is that we're in much better, it's a work in progress, we're in a much better position today from a financial control standpoint, risk management standpoint, on the collection invoices than we were a year ago. And the process this fall was better, although we still had some organizations paying late fees. We had one that paid a late fee the day after it was due and paid in full. And so they basically missed it by one day, but they had a late fee.
Okay. Well, that's reassuring to know that, things are improving and great that all the town departments are helping out each other in that regard. I didn't see any remote lawnmowers on the plan. Is there some lessons learned with that project?
Well, I mean, I think, I don't know, you may see it resurface. I actually think it's the right solution in the long run. I think DPW feels the same way. The timing may not be right. We still don't have power down there. But I think we may have been a bit too optimistic last year in terms of trying too far ahead of it.
For the electricity purpose of it all?
We just weren't far enough along with everything else that needed to be done, to make it make sense.
Okay.
So we pulled on this one. It may resurface. If DPW doesn't have it, it may resurface.
It's on DPW.
Oh, it is. Oh, there you go.
So it resurfaced.
It resurfaced.
So DPW wants to buy them for not Laurel?
No, I think in fairness to Sean,
By 28.
I think it's his resources that are mowing our fields in the spring, especially. We'll switch to a couple times a week. And so there's a lot of benefits to having them cut more often and keeping the height consistent for the quality of the plant surface as well.
There was one thing that's on, not this year, but the next year, and that's a Laurel Field maintenance shed and pavilion.
So that was actually originally on this year, and that got pushed out because again, it's too soon. And also there may be some interest, both, I can't speak for the youth organizations, but at least for the private clubs that utilize our facility, there might be some interest in potential cost sharing on that project that needs to be developed.
To store equipment. And where would you think about siting that?
On a historically non-playing surface, so a place that we haven't utilized as a playing surface for a long time.
Can you have the storage tanks?
Well, they're green,
Okay.
and they're kind of, I think we did it right, they're kind of tucked around the corner.
Oh, okay, good. I've not been there to see.
So back towards the orchard or
Yeah, like,
the road? What's the name of the lane that goes up to the orchard? Was it
Rockwood?
Rockwood?
So
So
it's-
back that way?
it's in that corner where it starts to go up the hill where the power lines go up. It's like tucked around that corner. It's actually where we store old
Goals.
soccer goals and stuff, if you can imagine that.
Is that water, I'm saying this in a funny way, thingamajiggy? Water irrigation that you have to move around, is that part of the irrigation plan, or is that a separate thing? Remember that you have to pull it?
Oh, the retractable, yeah, so it is, for one. we're gonna start with one. And then we have, for fiscal year, here's right, 27, is that what we're going to?
Yeah.
So there is one already that's part of
Yes.
what's gonna happen,
So
okay,
we'll have one, because we'll be able
to
to
irrigate,
irrigate.
okay. Can you show a picture of that next time you come in front of it, like, is that?
Yes.
Because
What are we talking about? A retractable what?
thingamajiggy. It's getting late.
I agreed, but I'm not,
Water,
It's a traveling sprinkler.
traveling sprinkler,
okay.
but,
Is that because you don't want
500 pounds, is it really that heavy?
It's, yeah, it's
And
about,
how is that gonna be managed by you?
well, it's actually, it's on, I mean, I don't know if it's exactly 500 pounds, but it's on large rubber wheels. It's actually not that difficult to work on.
Wait, are you talking
Okay.
about one of the overhead ones that
No, I
gets?
think like a farm. I think this is why she wants a picture.
You don't have to show it to me now, but next time
Okay.
you come, or if you can do it in front of advisory, that would be helpful.
Is that because it's better than laying underground lines?
Well, the initial plan, if we had hit like a geyser, was to have underground lines. That was actually part of the project. And when we so one of the trade-offs we had to make, which sounds kind of bananas given how much everything costs anyway, but one of the trade-offs we had to make was to get away from an underground sprinkler design because of the costs.
You don't have the pressure?
No, the pressure was going to be there. It's just going to be more expensive to put underground. And so what we decided to do instead, because it was less expensive, was to do an above ground traveling sprinkler. The reason why they call it traveling is you pull it out and then it self retracts overnight while it's water, and then you cast it out again. You can move around to different parts of the facility.
I'm just curious how much of your time it's gonna take, who manages that? You know, it's like the whole thing was setting up the lights. We can talk about that another time. It's late for you, but, you know, that's just something else to think about, manpower.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, from what they described to me, this is compared to the lights, it sounds like this is gonna be like a very low time thing. Like the lights actually are time intensive.
Mm-hmm.
We built for that. We had a fee for that.
So the lights are on by the rec department or by the
That's
private clubs?
No, it's a long story.
It's a long story.
You don't want to get into it right now. It'd take a while to go through it. It's actually both, but
They had 4. They got to have, you know, instead of 3, they got 4 for a lower price for 10,000 each, right?
we got ours for 86. It was 8,600.
Okay, 8,600.
But anyway, the clubs pay for 3 sets, the town only paid for 1. But we were able to rent them fields using their lights. So we were able to generate more rental revenue with their lights.
So why do we buy lights if we're not using them? But hopefully we'll
For
use
free
them.
youth programs and stuff.
Yeah,
Like, we want to have
hopefully.
one set.
We'll see how that, yeah, I mean, by next year, you should have an idea of what.
And we also went additional fields using our lights.
Oh, okay.
We actually made additional revenue on that too.
Got it.
So we're
Okay, good.
this is what it looks like. So it's a chest.
I'm not passing it along. Can I show it to you? Can I show it?
Yeah, sure.
And that's all part of the. Now, for another one of these,
Okay.
how much do they cost? I mean, they're under
If
the
you want,
20.
if, yeah, if you want to add a second one, it's $12,000. It's a non-capital item.
Under
I
25?
want to go on record that years ago, I was like, don't change it from 10,000 to 25,000, but I was alternate and didn't have
But I
bonus.
think it's still going to go through because you're going to see it on our budget, so.
Oh, no, I know.
All right.
I
I'm
just,
just saying, it's still going to get out.
yeah, I know.
All right.
All right, so what would be the square footage generally? Like, how big would the shed and pavilion be?
I don't have that with me, but
I mean, it's $150,000 on the form here, which seems like it's
there was
very expensive from my first blush.
an initial estimate was done based off of a certain size building that had a certain amount of storage with the ability to have a a covered pavilion area, all one building, so that.
Oh, covered pavilion, like a picnic area.
Yes,
Or
or
in a-
for shelter, for storm, or whatever. You use it for, I guess, multiple purposes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we have definitely monopolized your time tonight. Why don't we talk about going forward? What's the estimated delivery time for you to receive the estimate for the Jameson?
We're expecting first pass on it for the end of the month, and a final version of it early in January, so like the first week or so of January.
Okay. Which sounds like we'd need you back.
Yeah,
The good thing is that we were covering what I think are all of the outstanding contemplated rec department capital budget
no,
requests,
I think
right?
we'll owe you an update, as well as I'd like to get,
Kind of,
yes, under contract, and have an update for that as well.
Yeah, and if they're able to do anything more with even the irrigation, you can tell us that tanks are in or something like that. Well, maybe not 10 to 12 weeks, maybe not.
Maybe not that, but do you guys have a schedule for?
So one of the things that we're going to talk about is what the schedule is. And we were going to identify dates in January probably that we would do this on a Tuesday. I was hoping that January would be mop-up duty, so there wouldn't be much sort of new business, but it would be sort of, the second conversation with certain departments or perhaps the schools. They're oftentimes a little bit later in the timeline, so maybe do schools and any secondary conversations. But yeah, I mean, ideally, we try to wrap everything we're doing up by the end of January so we can give all of our recommendations to advisory as soon as possible.
Understood. Well, like I said, what's been communicated to me, the firm that we're working with, is to have it back first pass for the end of December and final early to January. So feel free to put me accordingly.
Okay. So maybe the mid-January would be a realistic time that you would be prepared, hopefully, to give us some better update as to what your specific ask is.
Correct.
Okay. Questions of us?
No, I don't have any. It's just the question on timing, but
Yeah.
that's not.
Okay. So yeah, hopefully mid-January on that. Given the hour, I'm going to suggest that we skip fire since the chief is not here anyways. And then we can go into our timeline planning.
sure.
So, and you can say if you'd like.
Don't you stay for the time?
You guys can walk the door on the way?
Yeah, we'll lock the door. Actually, do we know how to lock the door?
Actually, I have no idea how to lock the door.
No.
I'll lock the
All
door.
right, thank you.
All right.
Oh, well, thank you.
Pam's
Thank
got it.
you.
Have a good night.
Just don't
Thank
come
you.
back in if you leave.
I promise I will not come back in.
Okay. So, and let's see, who do we still have on the line?
We have
Deb, Diane, Margot, Laura. Laura, this, we definitely would love for you to ask and contribute all throughout the meeting. But we also want to make sure what your schedule may be over the next few weeks. So look, the major ones that, we've talked about to the recreation department, we'll catch up with fire at some point. We'll talk, we already talked about the police, so I think we're just waiting on subsequent information from them, but I assume that would be pretty quick. What I think is probably going to be a pretty substantial meeting would be DPW. If you look on the proposed fiscal year 2027, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects on there. So that's pretty substantial. And I can reach out to Sean to see if he's available either next Tuesday or even the following Tuesday. my preference would be next Tuesday, the 16th. Does that work for you, Laura, and you, Nora?
16th. Yes. Actually, it doesn't, because I have a liaison meeting at 7:30 to be there for library trustees, so I can't do that.
Okay.
I can do the 16th.
And what about the 23rd? I know that's very close to the holidays. And I'm not sure if DPW or some of the other departments would be available on the 23rd, but I just want to see if that's available for you.
I'll have Paul cover for me. I'll do the 16th. I can do the 16th.
Okay, so you could do the
I'll
16th.
do the 16th.
All right, so,
And then X out the 23rd. I don't think.
I mean, that would be ideal in my book. Laura, is your preference 16 over 23?
Yeah, my brother is arriving from out of town on the 23rd.
All right. So I would probably try to hold the schools over to January. To the extent that we can have fire come in next Tuesday. They have 4 requests here. All 4, all 4, the proposed funding source are free cash. So that doesn't mean that we're not vigorous, but it just means that each of the projects there are under $25,000. So these could be a substantial item, but not capital project type of consideration. And then IT is actually over. So that is, unlike years past, this one is actually 30,000. So it hits our limits, at least as proposed. That's, server computer upgrade. And then we have the elevator replacement, farm ponds, stormwater and access improvements. And I think to the extent that we can do the farm pond stormwater, Sean usually is the one that is most knowledgeable about that and is often the one who speaks to it. So if we can lump that in on an agenda with the public works projects, so I can reach out to Sean to see if he can do those next week on the 16th, and along with that fire. That would probably put in January IT, the elder housing. I'm not sure if this Board of Assessors, what's going to go on with the CAMA system or not. And then we'll have some schools and mop up.
Board of Assessors, you mean, or Board of Health?
Board of Assessors.
Assessors.
Board of Assessors, yeah. So that, I remember I heard something that might not be as nailed down, but maybe you got some more information recently. So let's aim for that, fire, DPW/stormwater next week. I can reach out to the chief and Sean to confirm on that. And then we'll post that meeting. I think we'll probably have to post it by Friday or Thursday or Friday for next Tuesday. So if that works with everybody, that's what we intend to go forward with. Is there anybody on the line or present who has other business or wants to bring up anything? Okay.
So 12/16 next.
Yeah, assuming that we have sort of people that will present. I mean, we can meet anyways and we can talk about the projects, but oftentimes I feel like our questions are best answered by someone, a live person in front of us, as opposed to just looking at the cold record. Because if we have some questions with the paperwork and there's no one there to answer it, it's not as productive or efficient.
Okay.
So yeah, it's 9:05. Haven't heard any other call for business.
Motion to adjourn. Can I do that?
I will second that motion. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned at 9:06 PM on December 9th. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Deb.
Thank
All right,
you.
good
Thank you,
night.
Thank you.
and for hanging in.
All right, good
Thank you,
night.
Pam. Good night, all.
Stop.